Good morning. Welcome, wherever you are. Uh, Welcome to all the faces on Zoom and the people I can't see on Facebook. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Happy to be here with y'all. We're going to continue our romp through the Ten Paramis, which, Buddhism likes lists. And I don't think that's because Buddha made lists, even though that's kind of a controversial subject to some. I think what's true is that Buddhism was an oral tradition for 500 years before anybody started to write it down, which is why there are all these lists, because it's easier to codify and remember an oral tradition that way. But the Ten Paramis are a list of 10 perfections of the heart that we can strive to for fully awakening. And they are what social philosopher Max Weber called ideal types, to me. An ideal type is something that you do not actually achieve, but you keep walking towards it. It's an ideal type. It's the thing you're walking towards. So, today we're going to talk about the parami of patience. I did talk about patience some weeks ago. We're going to take a slightly different tact this time. I was asked by somebody who meditates in a somewhat noisy environment about meditating in a somewhat noisy environment. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that before we get started. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but right outside my window, which is just a couple of feet away, there's often a bird chirping while I'm meditating. I think it might be a mockingbird, although it might be a little late in the season for that. My neighbor across the street likes to mow his lawn in the mornings. When I was in Bodh Gaya, India is not quiet. If you're in a car crash in India, the law says if you're not blowing your horn at the moment of the crash, then it's automatically your fault. So you are surrounded by blaring horns all of the time. And no matter how far you get inside the temple grounds, you can still hear all that stuff going on. I know people who meditate who live in New York City. That's not a quiet place either. There are no interruptions in the mindfulness field. There are no distractions in the mindfulness field. So if you hear something or something happens in your house or in your environment while you're meditating, just notice it. And notice what happens to your body when you notice it. Your mind might go to some version of, oh, wow. That's okay. Just notice it. It's all part of the field of mindfulness. You might want to name it hearing. Just come back to the center where you're breathing. There are no interruptions. Not even the bird outside my window, who isn't there this morning. It might be too cold for him. Anyway, I just thought I would mention that. I have a slight cold and my voice gives out. All things are impermanent. The only other thing I want to mention is on a couple of occasions this past week, my Zoom has just like quit in the middle, like gone. It'll take me a couple of minutes to get back on. I may or may not have achieved emptiness, but most likely it's just a technical glitch, and I will be back as soon as I can if I just disappear. So I'd like to start today by offering a poem from this really cool book I just got, The First Free Women, translations inspired by the original poems of the early Buddhist nuns. It's called Sumana, flowering jasmine. Walk through the mind all day and all night when you find each thought ending right where it began. Here, your circling ends. So let's find a meditation posture in which you are alert but relaxed. If you're sitting up, I suggest you sit slightly off the back of the chair, with your body relaxed and your back in this natural curve. And just letting the weight of your body sink into the chair as your pelvic region is holding up your torso. As your feet are anchored on the floor. And let's start by taking a few slow, deep breaths. Just to connect to the breathing. It's something I've started doing recently. On the exhale, just say gently to yourself, settle. And let the mind be like sediment settling at the bottom of the lake with every exhale, and the mind becomes clearer. Just on a few slow, deep breaths, settle. And as you exhale, you start letting the body relax and soften. And let your breathing return to normal. And as you exhale, just release and relax the muscles in your face. And let your eyes settle in their sockets. And to the degree that you can, release and relax your shoulders. We're just settling into the body in the present moment. And As you exhale, continue to relax your belly. We keep our bellies tight a lot during the day. Now you can relax and just let it hang. And just noticing the belly expanding and releasing as you breathe. And let your attention come to your breathing and focus your awareness on the sensations of the body breathing. Just noticing how it feels with the body breathing itself. Some people do that by focusing on the sensations of air moving in and out of the nose. Some people focus on the sensations of the belly or the chest moving up and down. Noticing the belly expanding and releasing. Your mind wanders off in thought. That's okay. Just internally you might bow to it and notice thinking. Without getting involved in whatever the subject matter is of the current thought stream. And just come back to your breathing. Patiently. Just resting your awareness on the sensations of the body breathing. And patiently, without recrimination or frustration or anxiety, noticing when you've wandered off. And patiently, as you would be with a small child, or a puppy you're training to heel. Just come back to letting your focus rest on your awareness of breathing. thoughts come and go. We just watch them patiently, without frustration, without wondering whether we're doing this right. Just accepting that it's a phenomenon, that the mind does that. Just notice that you've been thinking. And bring your awareness back to rest on the sensations of the body breathing. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, just notice patiently sitting in the moment, breathing. Accepting whatever arises and passes. May that sense of acceptance and patience permeate your day to day. And help you be present in all of your interactions. May the benefits of this practice help you meet the world today with kindness and compassion. To view the world with kind eyes. And may it be that the benefits of this practice flow out of us into our households and neighborhoods and towns, into the world around us, and to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. And may we all contribute to that. Thank you for your practice. So way back at the beginning of Buddhism, before there was Buddhism, I've told this story before, there was an ascetic named Dipankara who was told by the Buddha of his day that he would be reincarnated in a future life as a Buddha. And with that, that inspired him to write down what he described as 10 perfections of the heart for awakening. It's said that 5,000 lifetimes went by between that and the one that he awakened as the Buddha that we talked about now. Somewhere along the line, after the awakening of Sakyamuni Buddha, Shantideva wrote down the 10 perfections in a book called The Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, and the 10 perfections are generosity, morality, renunciation, insight, energy, patience, truthfulness, resolution, loving kindness, and equanimity. And today we're talking about patience. Katami in Pali. The poet Rilke, Rainer Maria Rilke, wrote in a letter to poet Franz Kappas sometime around 1911, to be patient with all that is unresolved in your heart and love the questions. Be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart. and love the questions. Patience entails choosing how we respond rather than react. And in developing the ability to respond rather than react, all kinds of other possibilities arise for compassion and mindfulness. And in various essays I've read on patience, it's generally described as a gentle forbearance. Maybe it's just as simple as whatever is going on, taking a deep breath and saying, I'm okay with that. I mean, after all, everything arises and passes away, and whatever situation we're in now is temporary. So the energy we bring to it is what determines the quality of whether we're suffering and the degree we're suffering. And patience, to the degree that we can breathe in and decide we're okay with whatever experience. It doesn't mean it feels okay. It just helps us move through the world more like silk and less like flypaper. And really it's about how we learn to continue to greet our experience, whatever it is, with mindfulness, loving kindness, and compassion. And what I want to emphasize today is applying this to ourselves and our own experience. Patience with ourselves. It's a kind of gentle perseverance that enables us to keep going when we're frustrated or discouraged. Emphasis on gentle here. Yes, it's true. I'm using this as another opportunity to talk about self-compassion. You must be horribly surprised. It's part of our effort to come closer to the things we are avoiding about ourselves. Mindfulness brings us closer to the things that we are avoiding in ourselves and brings us face to face with Mara. I've talked about Mara, but for those who might need a refresher, Mara was the god of illusion who appeared to Buddha just before his awakening to try to stop the awakening. And through everything he could at the monk, Gautama, to try to stop the awakening. And the last thing that he threw at Buddha, because he'd run out of everything else, was self-doubt. You're not okay, you can't do it. And Buddha met that with gentleness and compassion and invitation. He opened his eyes and said, I see you, Mara. He didn't say, I see you, Mara, scoot. Get away from me. He said, no. No, he said, I see you, Mara. Let's have tea. He recognized that all of this was part of himself and that what it required was gentleness. So, we're talking about the patience to see and accept Mara. In the 12-step parlance, they talk about our character defect, which is not a term that I really like, but it's a little pejorative. And in Buddhism, they talk about the hindrances. All of these things are opportunities to be patient with ourselves, to recognize that we're doing the best we can, to breathe in and breathe out, and meet ourselves with compassion, patiently. And in the times that we don't meet ourselves with compassion, because we're just human and we don't always do everything right or perfectly or remember anything, to be patient with that. Be patient with our impatience. Because the path to realization and awakening is through self-acceptance. And the path to self-acceptance is through self-compassion. And when Suzuki Roshi was asked about this, what is realization? What is awakening? He said realization is imperfection without anxiety. Just being patient with ourselves. It's not perfect. Well, every now and then when I was doing therapy, someone would say, I want to be perfect. I said, well, what if you are? This is it. Let's stop fighting. Yeah, let's stop the struggle to accept ourselves and just accept ourselves. Kind of like by decree. I mean, it's not that simple, but we start with a decree, with a decision, an intention. We're just going to accept ourselves. And then, once we notice we made that decision, we can start to notice all the times that we don't. And be patient, as we would be as if we were teaching a baby to use a spoon. That kind of patience. If you're training a dog to heel, you're walking the dog, and the dog wanders off, and you pull it back. It's a puppy. Doesn't know. Wanders off, you pull it back. Patiently, lovingly. You don't scream at it, kick at it, yell at it, berate it. No! Well, for one, it might bite you. But, so will your inner child in a way. We do so lovingly, patiently. So, training the puppy mind. And this applies really directly to our meditation practice. The question that I get asked most frequently is, am I doing this right? I've been meditating for 3 weeks, 6 months, a year, half a decade, whatever, and I'm still in the process of my mind is wandering off and I'm bringing it back, and my mind is wandering off and I'm bringing it back, and I can't get that to stop. It doesn't stop. It doesn't ever, I'm not sure it ever stopped. And as I said before, the people who show up and can completely master that into an open and quiet and still mind all the time show up every 500 to 1,000 years. We start religions around them because their personalities are so intense that we're still talking about them. In Buddha's case, 2.5 centuries later. And even Buddha struggled. Because occasionally, while he was teaching, Mara would appear in the group of monks that he was teaching to, or out at the edge of the woods, and all the other monks would be freaked out. And Buddha would do the same thing every time. Gentleness, patience. I see you, Mara. Let's have tea. So I was reading an article by Sharon Salzberg on developing a meditation practice. And she talked about meeting with one of her students, and the student was frustrated and said, I've been meditating all these months, and my mind is still wandering around, and my head is not quiet, and I still have to pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. Am I doing it right? And then he said, I think about that, and he said, and I'm quoting here, but I'm a completely different person now. I'm kinder and more patient with my family and friends and with myself. I'm more involved in my community, and I think more about the consequences of my actions and about my habitual responses, what habitual responses I bring to a situation. Is that enough? Well, that's all of it. Of course that's enough. I've been meditating for 30 years, and it's the same. I mean, the basic practice has not changed all that much. I've had a few big, open moments, but it's generally sitting and mind wanders off, come back, go off, come back, go off, come back. 30 years of that. But my life is completely different than it was before. And the more I practice that, the more I just settle into being more comfortable in my life. It's a long process. Being patient with ourselves helps us relinquish those old habits of being hard on ourselves that are so endemic in the culture, of expecting too much of ourselves. That kind of impatience with ourselves that happens when we start, anybody who ever started a new job and then you're 4 days into it and you feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it. Of course, all the people around you know that this is a normal process, and of course he or she's not going to get it by now. I was at the San Francisco Chronicle, and I was on that beat at the paper for a year before I started to feel like I was on top of it. And everybody around me knew that that was the process, except me. Right? It's a great object lesson. So maybe we should just approach our lives like we're starting a new job. And when we start to feel impatient with ourselves for some skill we're not learning, some mindfulness skill or some interaction, take a breath. Slow down. As an alternative to imperfection with anxiety. And I think one of the best writings I've ever seen on this is in a book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. Highly recommended. When I was an intern, one of the counselors where I was working gave me a copy of The Four Agreements, says this is everything you need to know. And, being an enthusiastic and green intern and looking through that lens, he says, oh, everything I need to know to be a good therapist? He said, no, just everything you need to know. And it turned out he was right. I should do a talk on the Four Agreements. I think maybe in the coming weeks. The fourth agreement of the Four Agreements is to always do your best. Whatever you're doing now. Causes and conditions change, and the nature of our best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to when you are sick, and under any circumstances, simply doing your best and avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, regret. I may have done this better last week, whatever it is, but causes and conditions were different last week. I may do this better next week, whatever it is, but causes and conditions will be different next week too. So, patience. Just patience. I'm doing the best I can. It's good enough. I think there's a reason why patience is one of the things that we're encouraged. The Buddhist term is to perfect. I don't know if we ever perfect any of it. That's the translation from Pali. When I can go on at length about the nature of translation from Pali, but I won't, because I like you guys and I don't want to bore you. Mill is going, thank you. Yeah. Be patient with me. I'm a Dharma nerd. I think it's important that this is named as one of the elements to focus on in our awakening, because the more we can be patient with ourselves, the more we can learn to be patient with ourselves, the more we can learn to be compassionate with ourselves, the more we can bring that out into the world and spread it. So, I invite you to, as the poet said, be patient with all that is unresolved in your heart. Thank you for your kind attention. Any comments or questions about that? Should I launch off in my Dharma nerdiness about Pali and translation? Okay, here's what I'll say about that, really briefly. There was a workshop being offered online by the Berry Center for Buddhist Studies. It's worth checking out the Berry Center. And the title of the workshop was Sutra Study for Poets and Engineers. Well, I'm a poet, and that sounded interesting to me. So I checked it out. And the first thing he put up on the screen was 3 translations of the same passage from the Dharmapada, including his, and started talking about the nature of translation. And it ended up spending 45 minutes on a word. This is where you can go with this. So, there's all kinds of ways to parse the Pali. I prefer to parse it in ways that emphasize gentleness and self-compassion. That's what I've chosen. And that's the path that I'm encouraging for y'all. I've been living in the South for a while. I'm talking about y'all now. So, thank you. I'm not doing Wednesday nights anymore, by the way. C'est la vie. And I put the usual information in the chat about how to find this on Zoom and my website, and if you feel moved to make a donation, not required, not even requested, but it's there if you feel so moved. And I will see you guys next time.